I'm looking at your boobs.
Oh my gosh.
You can see everything?
Yes. You're never going to have me on a podcast again because I am literally
Oh my God, you're frozen. Okay. Well, uh, hello. Hello. Okay. Ready?
yes.
10 years later, we're on. Okay. How long did it take us to set up your camera?
An hour and a half.
Amazing. I'm live from the very back of my 2013 Ford Explorer in Alhambra. Literally, there's a chain link fence with barbed wire right behind me. So it looks
So
great.
it's like your prison yard.
Yes, I think that if I was going to rename the show, it would be Two Old Moms. Oh, just doing this on the fly from the back of the car since I don't get to be at home this morning. So, anyways, let's talk about who are you?
So I'm Tanisha. I have been friends with Miley since we were 17. Worked
Well, I
at
had to be 16 to have a job
Yes. Wet Seal.
in the
Wet
Southcenter Mall in Seattle.
We've literally known each other for 27 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Sorry. I actually, none of Zuma's friends know how old I actually am. So I try not to give them too much to be able to. He actually really thinks I'm like 36 or 37. And she was asking Echo, if you were born in 19, blah, 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 how old would you be? And it gave her the wrong answer. I got super lucky. So now she thinks I'm young, but
It's funny though, because I remember when I met you, I thought you were so pretty. I thought you were this preppy, goody girl. But then I found out you were literally like with the shits. You did not let anybody talk to you any kind of way. It didn't matter who they were. They could be 6 foot tall. And
I have a story about that. It's funny.
oh my gosh, yeah, you will cuss somebody out and you cannot hide a face expression. If you're annoyed, someone automatically knows. If you're angry, automatically know. And then you will. I just remember that of you. I'm like, dang, you are not the person I thought you were.
I've never heard that before. Thank you, first of all, for saying I was pretty. First things first, I was maybe 85 pounds soaking wet at 16 years old. I might have even been skinnier. I had no friends in school. I had actually transferred schools right before I got that job because the boy of my dreams used to throw spitballs at my hair because I was such a loser. I switched schools and I was miserable at school and I just had no friends for a really long time, actually. So I definitely didn't feel pretty because right before I started high school, my uncle told me that he used to cut hair. I remember letting him cut my hair off because I had really long dark brown hair to my butt. And I let him cut it off to my chin. Turns out he used to cut hair in prison. That's off my lifelong hair, you know? So I just was not feeling like I was in that hot girl era. When people tell me that, I always really embarrassed because that's not how I saw myself at all. When you say preppy, that blows my mind because I just remember being in high school that year and it was all these preppy cool kids that I just had nothing in common with. I grew up in Burien and I went to school in Des Moines, like Normandy Park kids. I went to school at Mount Rainier with all of the affluent families and it just wasn't mine. Mine was on the border of White Center. And my grandma actually lived in White Center. So you know what I'm talking about. And for context, there's just a hard line between those two cities. And it's just different. The demographic is different. Where I grew up, you got a peanut butter jelly sandwich in a paper bag. I would hide it in my pocket because everybody else had these cool lunch boxes, Jansport backpacks. My mom was putting stuff on your surplus. Well, that's crazy. I really hard to overcompensate for it. And I feel like I still do that now, which is part of why the podcast is even in existence to begin with. It was really after Kingston died, I had this realization. It was unexpected. Never saw it coming because I didn't even believe in that stuff before he died. I just was kind of going along with it to give the kids something to be, unafraid or whatever. But what happened after he died, it was like, you have to learn to love yourself or life is just really hard. If you don't know your worth, life sucks. And I had a hard life, at least in my head. People may look at me on the outside and be like, oh my God, she was so cool. I hear that all the time. They're like, I thought you were so popular. I'm like, that's wild because in my head, I was all alone. So
I never would have thought that.
No, just like super emo up here,
You definitely were tough though. You definitely could hold your own. For sure, 100%. You can't even deny that.
I don't know if I could hold my own, but I would pretend that I could hold my own. And then I've been called out on it a couple times and I definitely got my ass beat for sure. In high school, I was running for class secretary and my friend, my campaign manager, decided she was going to support somebody else. So I decided I would call her a bitch as she whooped my ass. I got suspended and I didn't get to give my speech. Needless to say, I didn't win.
Oh my gosh.
In middle school, that happened too. I was running my mouth to somebody because I was just tired of being picked on. I've been beat up a couple times.
Mhm.
I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
won a fight that I've been in, not once.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Now that we're talking, I'm like, yeah, I've been in a couple of fights. And I've gotten in trouble even recently at Zuma's school 3 or 4 years ago. It had something to do with Kingston, but told one of the moms, I will fuck you up.
Oh my gosh.
I know in this age, that's just not something that should come out of your mouth, but it did.
Yeah. Well, it comes out of my mouth all the time, but do I really mean it? Am I really going to do it? Probably not.
It worries me though, because Kingston was barely recovering from everything we'd gone through. It's not a healthy way to function, but it definitely comes out.
That's foreign to me because I've never been through that, obviously. You've been through so much.
You were talking about even if he was 6 feet tall, I would come at somebody. Listen to this. I was 8 months pregnant with Kingston, totally pregnant, and the Spurs were playing in the championships. It was game 5 or 6, something like that. I'm at Buffalo Wild Wings. There's this huge dude. He's probably like 6'6", 6'7". He was probably 300 pounds. And I don't know why, but he decided to change the TV that I was watching. Instead of turning on any of the other ones, he turned on some replay of a boxing match. And when I asked him politely, can I please have that TV back? Because it was the only one you could see from my seat. He told me to go fuck myself. Now, remember, I'm pregnant, okay?
My gosh.
And I got up, and I walked right up to him, and I just punched him right in the face. 300 pounds, over
Oh my God.
He stood up slowly, and he stared down at me, and I was like, what? I was with my ex-husband at the time, and he was like, I don't got your back on this. He's so big. They called the cops and explained to me, we will take your child. You cannot behave like that. I looked down at my feet while the cops were talking to me. I was wearing 2 different boots entirely. One was black and one was brown. That's how pregnant I was. I was just messed up in that.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, I feel like maybe I haven't been normal for a long time. But you mentioned the fight thing.
Wow, that's funny. I feel like we've been around each other for a lot of the big moments. Which,
You're frozen, sorry. Okay,
gosh,
say it again.
we've been friends for a lot of the big moments. I remember you went to my baby
I
shower.
was at your baby shower. I have that picture still. Yep.
Yep, I still have those pictures. And then you were pregnant with Jaden. And you also, I was at your wedding. Was I taking pictures at your wedding?
You're the photographer for the wedding.
That's right. I thought your brother was also a photographer there too.
No, he was the dude that got us married. We had him ordained.
Okay,
Remember, I
that's
got
right.
married on the fly. My ex-husband and I, we dated
Yeah.
for 6 weeks.
I didn't even know it was so short.
Yeah, well, we grew up together. We went to elementary school together and then went to the same middle school, high school. We just didn't run in the same circle. So actually, if you look at my 7th grade yearbook, there's a big heart around his face. Yeah.
You guys seem, at the time, you guys seem really sweet and really
Well,
genuine.
both have our own mental incapacities. And so I think the two of us were like, upswing, let's go. And neither one of us really wanted to be alone. We were both just ready to get out of Seattle. And it was a whirlwind situation that abruptly went sideways right after we got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we tried. And I think that we care about each other very much as friends. And though we don't get along, we talk a lot.
Yeah, it seemed like
It's always with this end goal of just trying to get the other person to be straight,
Yeah, it seemed like one moment you guys are doing bad, and then another moment I'm like, wait, when did they make up again?
Well, it's 2 very fiery personalities for sure. He's a Gemini, I'm a Taurus. He's very machismo. He's Hispanic. I'm Italian. So there's just a lot of fire in the whole situation.
Yeah.
We both really to be right. So, and you're talking about the big moments. I was telling you on the phone last night, the only people I remember talking to the day that Kingston was born was you and my oldest son, Jaden. Funny that you mentioned that, 'cause on that day, I remember you were like, oh my gosh, he's literally Michael's twin. I think I remember the text exactly. He came out like his little carbon copy.
And what's funny is Zuma is your carbon copy. I don't even see Michael in her.
Really? Oh, she has his nose for sure. Lucky her, because at least she doesn't have the giant schnoz.
Oh my gosh, you don't have a giant. You've always, though, reminded me of Julia Roberts.
Okay, thank God, because I thought you were going to say Barbara Streisand. I get that all the time, and I'm just like, these are fighting words.
No, you don't remind me of Julia Roberts. No,
yeah, but you knew me with brown hair. Nobody else, everybody here, nobody knows me as a brunette.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
I like brunette too, though.
Yeah, I'm pretty gray now, though. It's not really an option.
You could get away with anything, I think.
Oh, that's why I went blonde, so that I didn't have to do the tough shit.
Yeah.
Trying to maintain under 40, My daughter really thinks I'm 30-something, so.
So you would never know this, You would never know this. And then just me watching your videos and stuff, I see you crying sometimes and I feel so bad. And I'm like,
You make me cry.
oh, I mean, there's a bigger story too behind it that even validates your grief and your trauma and everything.
I feel like there are the people who know me just from being Zuma and Kingston's mom, and aside from 4 people, know nothing about my past. They just know I showed up here with this kid who had cancer once, and now I'm struggling. So they don't know where I came from. And then there's the people in Burien and Seattle, right? And they only know the version of me who struggled, and they think that I'm thriving out here doing great. I'm not. Here's the thing. I don't have any money. I don't have a job. I can't get hired. And people send me job postings, but they pay $25 an hour. And I've done the math. No, my rent is $2,900. For a really long time, I was applying for them and not even getting those $20 an hour jobs. And the other day I did the math, and I can't work for $25 an hour. It would take away from the time I can hustle. During the day, I'm reselling clothes, or I'm making stuff on Etsy, or stuff for my friends' kids' birthday parties. I do a lot of stuff, super random stuff. Actually switched out somebody's radiator. I was able to change out my own radiator, so somebody asked me to do theirs. So I did that for a couple $100. I just do weird things that I taught myself off the internet. And when I'm crying, I think that it confuses a lot of people because they're like, wait, don't you live in LA? It's super expensive. Why don't you just move back home? And my answer to that is, that's not my home anymore. And it makes me upset, and people don't understand why that would make me upset. Well, my brother doesn't talk to me because I still owe him money for my divorce. And my dad doesn't talk to me because my son was given a dog that choked on a bone and I had to keep him alive. So I borrowed money from my dad to keep the dog alive because no vet would take any sort of payment plan. So I borrowed the money from my dad. Now I owe him $5,000. So he doesn't talk to me because I couldn't pay him back. It's just this, it just keeps getting worse. And I don't know, I can't go home. What would I go home to? My dad who's mad at me about the dog, or my brother who's going through his own shit, who's mad about the divorce that I can't afford to pay back?
It's easy for people to say that because in their family dynamic is totally different than
I don't have a
what
single friend here. Not one of my friends is single. All of my friends are married. Every single one of them lives in a home most of them own their homes, nice homes in an affluent neighborhood. Now, then their response is, well, what, do you have to live in Redondo? Well, as a single mom, you want to live in a safe neighborhood, right? Why should I compromise where we live? I guess my question is, would you go live in a neighborhood where you didn't know anyone, especially after my son passed away? For me to go move to a cheaper part of town, it means moving probably an hour away, really, because we live in just an expensive space. And that would mean that I have to start all over with people who never knew my son existed. And for me, in my space where I'm at in bereavement, that's not a task I can take on emotionally or mentally. And then you're asking Zuma to do it. And then you're taking away the only people she knows. I mean, isn't her brother enough? Hasn't she lost enough? I mean, she only sees her dad a handful of times, that I can count on 2 hands since Kingston passed away, and to no fault of, it's just everybody's going through their grief differently. And to ask us those questions, maybe they're asking to understand and they maybe want to help. But whatever is out there for us that feels doable and survivable, I promise you I've done it. If it is on the first 15 pages of Google, I have read it. I didn't sleep for a long time. Everything that Kingston had in the hospital, I got for him because I am that resourceful. I will find it.
Yeah.
So it's a silly question to me when people ask. Maybe they're just trying to understand. But then when I get upset, they get their feelings hurt. It's not the same person asks me the same question over and over. It's 100 people asking the same question. And by the 100th person, I'm like, look, I'll just do a PSA. And so when I post on Facebook, I'll get 30 messages from people who ask that question. You shouldn't have been so rude. I was just trying to help. And it's like, bro, this isn't about you. I know that's hard to comprehend, but believe it or not, my reaction isn't about you. I'm letting everyone know because I want you to be able to continue to help me. So I'm letting you know what I've already done. And then people get their feelings hurt over that too. And I can't care if your feelings are hurt.
Yeah. I think I understood it when I don't know if it was on your podcast, but you said something of like, why would I bring Zuma someplace she doesn't even know? She's only hasn't even been to Washington. So that right there, that kind of clicked for me. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and that the thing is too, we go to places where she's like, remember when Kingston did this here? Or we took a picture of our family right here. It's only been 15 months. And if you're in jail, 15 months is a long time.
Yeah.
When you have lost a 9-year-old child, it's nothing. And there may be a time where that makes sense to us. It's just not today. And for somebody to ask that in 4 months after he died or a year after he died, it just feels insensitive. And I know that they don't understand because we've not walked in one another's shoes. I don't know what it's like to be you, and you don't know what it's like to be me. And until you've lost a child, and I mean that with a lot of conviction, if you have not lost a child, there is no loss comparable. It's just different. We're not the same. It's just different.
Yeah.
It's not more or less. It is just different. So it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain even to his own dad why I do the thing.
Yeah, I would. How is his grieving different than yours?
Well, I live every day talking to Kingston. There was one day, it was in September after he died. We died in July, August, September. It was 2 months after he passed away. And I sat up in bed one night from a dead sleep and was like, there's got to be a way I can still talk to him. He can't be gone. There's got to be a way to talk to the dead. I don't believe that this is it. There's got to be a way. I was Googling how to channel your dead kid. I was willing to try anything. And there's a story that comes after that, and I'm trying to decide which way to go. To answer your question, his dad would never, ever do that. He would never Google how to find him again. He does not like to talk about him at all. If I bring him up, he gets very upset. I have been told I need to ask for permission, and he has never given me permission to share a story up until last week. I had permission that day. The next day I shared another story, and he got very mad because I did not have permission. It is a really big trigger for him to even talk about him. He didn't come to the funeral. He didn't come to his service. He was not there when he died. He just couldn't handle it. But I talk to him. I talk about him. My house is covered in pictures. I mean, everything I do now and everything I want to do going forward is based on him being gone.
Yeah.
His dad would never.
I've seen this thing online and it says when you've lost someone you love, you see the sky differently. Like when you look at the sky, do you think of him all the time and think, what is he doing in heaven? Or what is he doing? What do you think he's doing?
Well, some days I know point blank what he's doing because he's very present in what I'm doing. So quick backstory. I believed in God loosely growing up because I'd been to church 4 times and my mom gave me this little children's Bible. So I didn't have a problem with God ever. I think it was Baptist or something like that. But by the time I got sober, I was pretty like, God's not real. Like, why do these bad things keep happening to me? Because I'd had the crappy relationship that broke my heart. But that's actually what sent me into it. I won't say his name, but there was a guy. I don't know if you remember me telling you about the guy that broke my heart and he cheated on me and he married the girl. That's what sent me into my downward spiral. He just one day stopped talking to me after years of traveling around the country, hanging out. And we did have a toxic relationship. I was drinking all the time. I worked in a nightclub and I lived a lifestyle that wasn't conducive for being in a healthy relationship. I'll tell you a little secret. I still am so in love with him and I would just give anything for his wife to get Thanos away. Like if they disappeared half the universe and he and I were on the side that stayed, I would love that very much. But is that my toxic? I mean, like, am I messed up for that? But because of him, I'm kind of jumping around now as my ADD brain's kicking in. That boy, I was so in love with him. He walked into Hooters one day and I was like, oh my God. He was a player, like a big player. And I should have known better when we were hanging out. He would always take girls home from the bar and it would mess with my brain. And so then I would be psycho. You want to hear a story? There was a girl parked in his carport one night and I was so mad. I just was fed up that I plowed my car into hers.
No. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, if you're listening, that was me.
That is so psycho.
I was a psycho. I was a fucking bad shit.
That is so funny.
Oh, I would. But also, like, you were taking hoes home from the bar. So
did he ever mention anything?
I'm sure he knew it was me. I'm sure I didn't have to tell him.
That's so funny.
Well, get dick, you're gonna get shit. So,
I wish I had the balls to do that. A
oh,
lot of
I was
people.
so mad. And my hype girl was in the passenger seat, so that didn't help the situation at all. Him and her hated each other. She was like, "Do it," and right on the corner. And actually, that corner, cars would drive into their carports all the time. It was a three-way stop on a busy street. Let me finish where I was going. Is that he walked in, we started dating. I worked at Tiki Bob's in Seattle.
I remember that.
I you guys in for free? Yeah. And he was still hooking up with all these girls, taking him home from the club. So I would let him in, and then that motherfucker would leave with a different girl every single time.
Wow.
So he would do that. There was something about him going to a strip club for a birthday party. And I was like, I'm going to be a stripper then, if that's what you're going to do. And he's like, oh, you wouldn't last a day. You don't like people. You wouldn't make any money. So to spite him, I was like, watch me.
Why do I picture you, though, being grossed out by every man in there? I literally see your face right now. You cannot hide your face.
That's so funny you say that because at first, so yes, in strip clubs, those girls do some dumb shit. And I could not ever do that. So you're not wrong. It was really difficult for me. So
Yeah.
for the first couple months, I made a lot of money. It was really easy. I found the customers that liked to talk, and I would just sit with those guys. It was a terrible stripper for the purposes of what strippers do. I would have to find a new face to be able to make money because all I would do is talk.
That is funny.
So no, you're not wrong. And it didn't last long.
That is so funny. I didn't know you were a stripper.
I don't know if even something like, do I tell people that?
I don't think anything's wrong with that.
It's not so bad. It's kind of like a thing that you do. You work at Hooters and then you level up to stripping. I haven't told a lot of my story in general because it will affect Zuma. She will lose friends. When they find out I was a stripper, they're going to have a fucking heyday.
Oh, yeah. I would never thought that. I'm like, so.
I do some fun stuff. When I got there, I was surprised how many people I knew from like the neighborhood. But what happened after he died, I really just, you have to learn to love yourself, or life is just really hard. If you don't know your worth, life sucks. And I had a hard life, at least in my head. People may look at me on the outside and be like, oh my God, I hear that all the time. They're like, I thought you were so popular. I'm like, that's wild because in my head, I was all alone. So
I never would have. Yeah, I never would have thought that.
Think about this. When I got my first DUI, that's God going, hey, you're going to need my help. Maybe let's do this. Okay. And I did it again. Then I went to rehab where I was like, okay, I'll believe in something greater than myself. I fought so hard to get my kid back. And when that didn't happen, I was like, well, you are a liar. Okay. And God didn't show up for me. So I started to resent him. And what I did next was I drank again because I was like, fuck it. I'm never going in. And I went out and got another DUI.
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I do remember, speaking of Jaden's dad, I remember us driving somewhere and you wanted to get Jaden. And he told you that if you want to see Jaden, he needs to see my license and my insurance to make sure that I can drive. And what's so funny is I never told you this, but my license was suspended too. I was like, God, please don't bring him here because he's going to know that my license was suspended.
Oh, no. Well, see, that's right there. See the relatability there, and you didn't say anything in that moment. And I think that's the whole reason that I decided I shouldn't hold back what makes me me, because how comforting would that have been for me to know that about you, that like, oh my God, she's in it too.
I know.
In that moment in my life, I explained in the beginning of this that I hated who I was. I didn't want anyone to know I was poor. I didn't want people to know that my parents were divorced or that I didn't live in Normandy Park. And, I hid so much about who I was. And I was so embarrassed and ashamed, really. We're all exactly the same. And nobody wants to say anything out loud because they think they're alone in the shit that they're going through. And it's just not the case.
And then so sometimes too, where it's, if bad things don't happen, you'll never really turn to God.
And those are these little, they're called micro traumas, and they pile up. And sometimes most of the time, we don't know where a lot of our insecurities even stem from, because a lot of them will happen before we've even developed our memories. So if something, if you are, an infant and you're around parents who argue or an abusive relationship and you are in that toxic space, your body as an infant your body will remember the feeling that tension and that negativity puts in your body. So Zuma, as like a 10-year-old, she doesn't know why she feels the way she feels when I yell. Well, her infant body does, and it triggers something in her body, but her brain can't recall. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so over time, we develop all these little micro traumas. And so by the time we get to like our 20s and real life starts happening, and I was suicidal and I felt all alone because I had now gotten the third DUI and my parents were finally like, no, figure your shit out. I'm done helping you. And yeah, so that's kind of what, like where I've gotten to the point where I have to share even the stuff that I don't want people to know.
You know what's funny? Okay, now I'm going to share. My tabs are expired since 2024. How funny. Like, I started off like not doing the tabs because I was just rebelling. And I'm like, I'm paying this $500 for tabs. But now I'm like, okay, I have toll fees that I pay.
Well, so mine is we were driving back and forth to Radiation to go to all these places and I just didn't have the money. And we would be late for chemo and it was an hour and a half in traffic or 30 minutes if I jumped in the lane that I couldn't afford to be in. So I would take the express lane to get Kingston because he had to be there in downtown LA at 7 a.m, rush hour traffic, and he's vomiting as I'm driving there. So there was like $900 in tolls. And when I called and told the state of California, they did not give a fuck. They did not care at all.
How are you not? Don't you get paranoid when you're driving behind?
Absolutely. It's awful. It's terrible. And there's just really, it feels like there's no freaking winning in this.
Yeah. It's like a downward spiral.
And it's like, I have overcome so much. Then my kid died. We survived all of that just for him to fucking die. It makes me so fucking mad.